Good morning, afternoon, evening. Hello, everyone. This is Varun Kapoor, and welcome to the Silicon Valley podcast, the weekly tech podcast that we host on multiple platforms. And you will be able to hear or connect with us every Wednesday at 6 p.m. PST, where the idea behind this podcast is to bring technology or technological enhancements or products or anything that has to do with technology to the forefront, and also some of those entrepreneurs or enthusiasts who have either been there, done that, or some of those people who really want to take it to the next level and are constantly looking for that kind of a little nudge. And that's going to be the idea behind these podcasts. As part of today's podcast, I am really fortunate enough to have Shri Ramaswamy, who is the founder and the CEO of a company which had a different name earlier on, but now it's called Charlee.ai. And I would love to kind of get her on the screen right away, simply because I really want to know, what's going on in this specific domain, fintech, or you could call insurance, domain, along with the latest advancements in AI. For people who don't know what's AI, this will be an opportunity to get to know more about AI, about the new technologies, and how all the risk management as well as the financial management can be handled. So, without wasting any more time, let me get her on the screen. Welcome, Shri. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me, Varun.
My pleasure, and it's gonna be an amazing session. Like I mentioned, this is gonna be a podcast series. We will be available on multiple platforms, so I'm really looking forward to that as well. Simply because a lot of people have been requesting and have been asking to talk about certain facets or certain areas in technology, and AI being one. And I'm really humbled that I could get your time, and we would be able to kind of cover a lot of aspects, I'm sure, around insurance, around AI, and whatnot. But before I start there, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell us who Sri Ramaswamy is, where is she from, and what has she been doing in the last, uh, 10 years? And not to forget, what is that one thing on top of your mind when you talk about this topic today?
Okay, I will start with who I am. Shri Ramaswamy, founder and CEO of Charlee.ai. Yes, you rightly said we actually rebranded from being called Infinlytics. And it was just very easy because that was the product name everybody associated with Charlie, the robot, the cool looking robot, more than Infinlytics. So it was a no brainer for us to rebrand to Charlie.ai in AI because that's what we do. Where did I start? I come from Hyderabad in India, and I started my career for a brief moment with hotel management and working in the hotel industry for, I would say, a year, close to a year. And then I moved into sales and marketing with Samsung. I was the first one to introduce microwaves in India with something called context based marketing. So I won't say entrepreneur, but I think intrapreneur is probably the right word because I introduced a concept of context marketing to bring in the women out and to look at the product because microwave is very I would say more driven by the women in the house. The decisions are driven by them. So that's how I started. And there I learned a lot about data and I got fascinated with data. And so my manager saw that. And more than the sales and marketing, he pushed me to do my further studies and, really get into the data side because of the reports that I had created. So that's where the journey began with data. And, today I'm excited. The one thing that's on my mind is data is how is this data going to bring the entire world together? It's fascinating to see that insurance is not a silo anymore and the connection is data. with other industries. So that's really what's on my mind. And after that, I went to Australia to do my further studies. I started a small branding company there, and then I sold it over there. Came back, paid off my tuition, came
Wow.
came back to India for a vacation, and I got forced into marrying. So I got married, and I came to the United States. So yes, it's an arranged marriage, and I'm very proud of my parents for that decision. Don't regret it for even a second.
Though
And
it didn't sound, though it didn't sound good the way you said it, forced into marriage. But thanks for clarifying.
yeah, I was. I mean, it was, it's everybody's on everybody's mind that, arranged marriages are not for this generation. But I guess, I come from the previous generation now. I'm not in this generation anymore. But when it happened, it was losing popularity. So it was like I was forced to get married at that time, and forced into this concept of arranged marriage. But of course, I got the choice to pick the person and know him very very briefly before I made the decision that okay, if I'm marrying him. So it was it was the best decision of my life till today, and
Great.
I think that's it goes without saying. And he's also my co-founder and CTO in the company at this time.
Wow. Uh,
And go ahead.
no, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
So that's kind of where it started. I came to the United States. I started working in the banking industry, continued my journey with data, and 14 years being in the insurance industry. When I first stepped into insurance industry, I was like, I thought I was in a caveman generation, and really didn't understand how I would stick it out there. But after a few months and few months of working with data, I realized that it's such a huge opportunity of change. And I am so proud to say that we pioneered the change of bringing natural language processing into the AI concept of natural language processing into insurance. I won't say to change insurance, I would say to enhance insurance.
Got it. Got it.
So
So let me jump right into it. You've used one word, and even in the introduction, I used that word, insurance. Why do we care so much about insurance? Why do we worry about being in this country, especially in US? We are constantly being we constantly worry about a lot of things, be it car insurance, home insurance, life insurance, and whatnot. But from a technological perspective and what you do at Charlie, if you could walk us through, if you could guide us, what is it all about, and why insurance is so important, and how we could talk more about that.
so I will put it in plain simple terms. Insurance drives the world today. The innovations you see in other industries, the connections it has with some of the very basic things in life, whether it's a house or when you go to school, when you're driving the car, when you're trying to work in a company, when you're trying to do some innovative things, when you're even shipping and getting the ground, getting your things shipped to your industry. Everything, right from shipping industry to trucking to everything, depends on having insurance.
Right.
And that's what gives you a comfort zone. And I think it's time that people just step in and realize that you're actually feeling a lot more relaxed is because you have insurance. Insurance protects you against that fear of losing everything. And it's a very very complicated industry. People think it's so easy. I never get paid. It's they're all meant there to just make money. But maybe that's every industry is here to make money.
Yeah.
But insurance is complicated because it is part of our daily lives. It will be part of daily lives. There is, I think, no doubt about it. I think the way we interact with insurance might change, and definitely the expectations that we are having from the insurance companies are changing. And I think that's really where Charlie.ai comes into play, is how can we impact how how communities are staying together, how communities come together, and how communities are better I would say, integrated with insurance, and it's very important. And if you I'm sure we'll kind of talk through this in the next few minutes.
Correct.
It's also important to understand the impact it has when you don't understand where the fraud goes, why there's so much litigation in the insurance, why there is so much there is fraud, and why there is so much of I would say negative feeling towards insurance. And all those things will affect and impact the future. So I think it's time for all of us to come together and understand that this is a very complicated industry. It's a regulated industry. It's very, very complicated. It's purely financial. And it also is an art to an extent. So we'll talk more about claims and I will explain why. But that's where Charlie comes into play. And Charlie is here to impact that journey that consumers like you and I have with our insurance company, and how insurance company can continue to stay profitable and help us.
Got it. Got it. So, without wasting time, let's get into, what is dot AI all about? What do you do? And, how maybe potentially, out of end of this session, maybe you guys can help me save more money on insurance, so let's jump right into it. Do you want me to put it on the screen now?
Yes, please.
Here we go.
So I wanted to go back to the movie. I think it came in the 80s. It's called Rush Hour. I don't know if if people have watched it. So it's it's a very famous dialogue there between Lee, who is of course Jackie Chan, and Carter, who is the Chris Tucker. And one of the things he says is like he says, "I like to let people talk who like to talk," and he says it makes it easier to find out how full of shit they are. And I think this is so important, and this is relevant. Promise me, this is relevant to what we do, because we are all about natural language processing. It is so important to understand the story. And claims is full of stories. Claims is ultimately a financial decision, but it is based on stories. It is based on understanding, interpreting, and then making a decision of whether somebody should be paid or not. Why does this impact? Because insurance is a pool of money. You're basically, it's the most community based business that you can think of, because you're all pooling money, and you're basically making somebody whole when they have a loss. And whether the person should be paid or not is a financial decision that can impact the rest of the people in the pool. So I would say this is the most community based industry that you can ever see. And that's why it's important to keep it to keep it going and to keep it evolving. And that's where we come in. If you look at from plain numbers perspective, today the industry loses more than $150 billion in annually towards fraud, litigation, and making those decisions in your claims, which goes towards loss expenses. Now, I want to point out one thing in this is that all this loss is again coming back to people in the pool, which are consumers like you and I. So there are two things that happen. Either the company just withdraws and they don't, give policies, they don't cover those areas. You're seeing this with the fires and a lot of the natural disasters that are happening, and companies are pulling out of some areas and they don't want to cover it anymore. So that's one repercussion, and that's happening because of natural disasters, but it's also because of the losses, the amount of losses that it brings in. And the second thing is you will see an increase in premiums, and that's those are the most probable two things that can happen because of losses that you see. Some are preventable because they're predictable, some are not. Some are just the way it is. It's just why you have insurance.
Yep.
And so and then if you look at what COVID has done to the industry, and it's lost a lot of very important domain skills. It's created a lot of skills gap. Not many young people want to join the industry, so that leaves a even more huge of a skills gap. and the costs are rising. So if the company wants to stay profitable and cover all the areas and offer you different products, you need to make sure that the company stays profitable and their operating expenses are lowered. And why does this matter? This is all going back to that story I was talking to you about. It all starts with a claim, and that's the reason we all buy insurance. So when the claim comes in, it comes in with huge amounts of data. If you just take an adjuster, whether it is a property or your car insurance or any other kind, we mostly deal with property and casualty, which covers your auto, your car, your home, and liability and all the other things. We don't cover the healthcare and workers' compensation. So we are more the property and casualty side. If you look at what an adjuster does on a daily basis, this is so important to understand, because this is where opportunities, from a technology standpoint, come in. The adjuster today on an average deals with about, I would say, 100 to 150 claims per day, and each claim brings in almost 200 to 300 pages, documents, pages, and many different kinds of data. So if you are ever thinking about big data, this is the industry. They are looking at third-party sources. They're looking at now, you have the IoT devices, you have many other things. All this data is being put together in the mind of an adjuster, and they're processing this, and then they have to make a decision of how much to pay. And
Right.
that's really where the claims adjudication process and the settlement process come in.
Mhm.
In this, the adjuster is the weak link. And the reason why is because of all the things I just mentioned. They have to go through multiple different kinds of data. So if you can imagine, this is a manual IoT. And this is completely a manual IoT. And they have to put all that together, make sense out of it, and remember. More importantly, is to remember, what did they do 10 days ago? Did
Sure.
this person break their roof 10 days ago and they're coming back again with the same story?
Right.
So it's not only important to comprehend and interpret the story, but it's also important to remember those patterns. And
Right.
that's very, very hard for a human brain to
Sure.
process.
Sure.
If you're skilled, if you have tons of experience, maybe you will remember those patterns, you will see those patterns very commonly, and you will spot them when it happens. But
Mhm.
irrespective of that, you have a volume of claims to deal with, and you also have new people that join in that don't have any training.
Right.
And claims is very, very emotional. They're basically investigators.
Yep.
If you think about, like crime investigators, or they're constantly looking for that MO. And they have to be trained in that. And if you have somebody who's lost their home to a hurricane and you're on the call, just imagine the psychological and the emotional pressure that you get. And
Correct.
if you're a novice, to put all your feelings aside and to do the right things is very hard, is sometimes humanly impossible. To see
Sure.
somebody crying on the other side and make a decision of, no, I don't think you're telling me the truth, I think you're misrepresenting, I'm not going to pay you. So that's very hard decisions. Those are hard decisions. But that's where Charlie comes in. If it is able to point out those insights, those patterns, and if
Mhm.
it's able to predict certain things by understanding and interpreting that story and converting that story into insights, and presenting that to the adjusters, to the claims managers, to the risk managers at the right time, I think that's really, going to save a lot of time. It will also prevent litigation, because you can start mitigating on them a lot more sooner in the process than waiting towards the end, where all the parties are above a certain level to even come in and have a decent discussion. So these are kind of things that are hidden in the story, and to take out those things from the story is often hard. And that's what Charlie accomplishes here. So we are all about trying to avoid, help companies, insurance companies, avoid attorney and litigation, because it is estimated that every year almost close to 20%, 17 to 20% goes towards litigation expenses. And that's like, if you're paying $1, 20, cents out of that goes towards litigation. And you have other things as well. So if the company has to stay profitable, they have to make sure that, claims don't stay open longer because that is vulnerable to litigation. And also you're fair. You're fair to the promise that the contract is the insurance contract is a legal contract. So you're fair to that legal contract. And the second thing is the reserves, which is also important. Insurance companies make money on investments, not on your premiums. They invest your premiums. And a reserve is a financial transaction. You have, anytime a claim comes in, as soon as it's reported, a certain set of money is set aside for paying you.
Mhm.
So that's where, when you put aside that money, you cannot use it for anything else. You cannot invest that money. So it affects the profitability of the insurance company. And again, that's where we come in. So Charlie does three things to extract insights for the claims managers so they can make decisions on who to assign those claims, how soon to assign those claims, what kind of characteristics or the MO does the claim represent. So if they know about those things well in advance, then they can make very important decisions on the workflows.
Got it.
So I'm going to like very quickly go through what Charlie does. So these
Sure.
are some claim documents, some claim files. Charlie interprets all the text, the using the natural language processing. It is able to extract all these things from whatever it may be. It may be an article on social media. It may be an article on a news media. It can be a document. It can be a report. It can be the claim, I would say the claim notes, that's what they call it, where the adjusters document the story. The moment you tell, okay, what happened? Tell me what happened in this incident. So you're narrating the story, and those stories are captured in what we call as the claim notes, and that is a building block for understanding the MO. And that's what we are able to pull together, interpret that, and convert that into dashboards and predictions. So
Wow.
at the end of the day, it's actionable because we do all these things in the background, and all we are presenting to the insurance company's claims management team and the risk management team is a set of dashboards that can help them identify where and how to prioritize these claims, where to focus, where to put their focus, what are those important topics. I mean, you and me are familiar with social media. We are all about hashtags.
Yep.
What we do differently is we are creating those hashtags. Charlie is creating those hashtags from these difficult and very difficult to reach text data that is hidden within all these sources of data.
Got it. I mean, this on a high level, I know you are still very high level, if I understand it correctly. Providing all these different insights into an actionable dashboard. I think it saves a lot of not only effort, hassle, but also a lot of time and money for any insurance company. And I can feel the pain. This the term that you're using right now is for what's the person's name, or what's the role again?
Adjuster.
Adjuster. So I can feel the pain this adjuster has to go through every single claim process, because everything is actually dependent on how he or she processes it. And if they make a mistake, of course the company has to pay for it. But uh, and maybe they might need insurance for that as well. But they do. Okay, all right.
Maybe.
Yeah, but I'm really interested to know a little bit more. I see a lot of things happening on the fly in the back end. And you also shown in one of the slides the kind of accuracy, about 70 to 80% you said is accurate. What happens in case it is not, and what do we do about those scenarios as well? Love to kind of have the other side as well. What happens about the manual work that is still involved, and is that something that you or at Charlee.ai you guys are even looking at that, or have you covered all the aspects end to end?
So we cover the most important part of delivering the insights to the claims area.
Okay.
Now, the ultimate thing is that the adjuster pretty much has to make decisions, or the managers, usually the managers are the ones that use these dashboards so that they can plan their workflows better to improve the workflow efficiencies and to reduce the costs. And that's what, and also to look at some of these prioritized items. Like if I give you 10 claims and if I tell you that these claims are predicted to go into litigation, and I tell you that about 2 months in advance, what are you going to do differently? And that's the question we ask the managers. And that's something the insurance companies need to understand from AI. AI is not, everything. It's not the low all and behold kind of thing. It has its limitations. It has its restrictions. And because we are also serving a regulated industry, there are limitations to what an AI can do.
Got
It
it.
can only point out the insights. Okay, it's almost like a exercise regime. If you have to ultimately do the exercise in order to feel healthy. If
Right.
somebody else is not going to do it for you, they can probably tell you what your regime should be, but they cannot do it for you. So it's ultimately the insurance companies have to take these actionable insights and implement them or operationalize them. That's the most critical part, and that is something that we cannot do. We don't get involved. We work with them, and we work with them to kind of go through the I would say operationalizing the dashboard, operationalizing everything that we put in the all the insights that we put in the dashboard. And that is critical because they are the ones that are going to be using it. They are the ones that are in front of the customer, in consumers like you and me, when we have claims. So they need to be confident of the AI. So we often say that the best result you can get is when you combine human intelligence with artificial intelligence. And that we stand by that.
All right. I know. Why don't you, go through this, and then, I have a couple of questions that have been posted in the chat as well. But let's go through the slide deck and maybe finish it.
Sure. So the last point I wanted to kind of point out in this is that the when predictions, like people talk about machine learning and AI, and there are few things that come up. How can you trust machine learning to do the right things? You cannot. When the traditional machine learning uses standard, I would say, characters or variables, and these are structured data. They're looking at name, age, gender, all these kind of what we call as structured attributes. Claims is more than 70% unstructured. So you can see already how much of human bias is happening.
Right.
And that's going to, if you want to, what we are attempting to do is to minimize that 70% and to make sure that the human that is responsible for making the decision on that claim and settling it fairly is able to rely on these insights, because these insights are coming from the actual stories. So I
Right.
again want to emphasize that natural language processing, use of natural language processing is very critical in insurance because a lot of it is unstructured. And if you want to, I give the analogy of this, if you go to a restaurant and let's say that the restaurant has lost some customers, when you start to analyze on why, you see that the memberships have come down. Now unless and until you look at the reviews of these patrons or the customers, you wouldn't know exactly why the numbers have come down. So the
Mhm.
context is very important. Maybe some people are saying that, hey, there were certain dishes like stale, and that's why I don't want to come back. And if you don't understand that, okay, there's some stale food and complain of stale food, that's why you see the numbers go down, and it's not the customer service. So you are going to make wrong decisions on saying that, okay, I'm going to fix the customer service perspective and not focus on what really was the issue behind the decline of the customers. So that context, to the numbers is very important, and that's what Charlie brings in, is that we are basically converting that unstructured insights into what machine can use to whether it is predicting or whether it's looking for patterns, whatever it is, these predictions need explanations and these predictions need a context, and that's what we are providing. So the end users are very comfortable with the AI that they're using, and it's been developed by experts from the industry. So for a regulated industry, I would definitely encourage involving your domain experts because they are the key.
Got it. Got it.
And that's
Uh,
all I had from the slides perspective. So
Sure, sure. Thank you, thank you for this. Getting some insights in a form of data also is helpful. Now, a couple of questions. Like Preeti is asking, do you have some AI use cases associated with the insurance brokers?
I'm sure there are, we are right now focused on the claim side, but we do with what we do, we have gotten interest with taking the topics, the insights that Charlie is able to extract from these are very relevant to the brokers as well, because the brokers are today, they are siloed, they don't really understand, they are just there to bring the customers in. But let's say I sell an insurance to Varun, and tomorrow something happens, God forbid something happens to your roof or something, and then you are unaware, sometimes in some cases you are unaware of what happened. All you know is that, hey, you got this customer and this customer has a claim, and not all claims are bad claims.
Yeah,
I keep telling people that no claims means no insurance. Then insurance becomes commodity. So claims are important. As much as we don't want them, it is important to manage the expenses around it, because claims is critical. Without claims, there is no insurance. And in order for you to sell that to a person like a broker who sells insurance, it's very important to understand what really happened,
right,
and collect all that. So we have cases where the roof damages. Now the roof can damage because of a hurricane, it can damage because of some labor issues, maybe when somebody was installing, they didn't do a good job, and maybe that's why. So there are a lot of things that you can do to prevent claims, and those come from the claims that have happened in the past. So there is definitely a lot of use cases around that. There is insurances, you can just take one line of business and you can find hundreds of use cases across all the different parties or stakeholders within the insurance company. So there are lots.
got it, got it. The next one it's asking is, it takes some time for AI to settle in. How much time or how much data is needed before Charlie becomes effective?
That's, I mean, it you have to train, especially because we used natural language processing. So I'll give you examples. If I said, okay, in the claim, if I said to you, the roof was damaged, and you have maybe another claim where somebody else says the roof was not damaged or there was no damage to the roof, these two are completely different context. So in for you to be able to train your hashtags, what we call as hashtags, because that is what we do, we take out these hashtags, we take out this hashtag called roof damage. Now, if you want to take that hashtag roof damage, you have to exclude the person that says there was no damage to the roof. And that takes training. And that's where the domain experts come in. We took almost 3 years. We have trained Charlie over close to about 45 million claims across 6 lines of business. And today we own more than 50,000 plus insights that we have trained like this.
Wow,
So
impressive, very impressive. All right, one more. Does Charlie work closely with ISO, the rating
yes,
agency?
we have the ability to interpret the ISO reports as well.
Great, great. And one more from the chat. How much does AI within the insurance industry assist clients individually versus commercially? Would you have that in?
So Charlie is mainly geared towards insurance companies. It's not so much for the consumers like you and me. Our intention with Charlie is to enhance the offerings, enhance the servicing of the insurance so that you as consumer can see the benefit. If I can provide those insights, and the claims team can, make decisions a lot more faster, the claims cycle is reduced and you can get your claims a lot more sooner, and the insurance company can keep the costs low without going into litigation. My hope is that the insurance industry will ultimately be able to serve all of us better. Will be able to use that to provide you more discounts, to also work with us in coming up with products that are needed for today's generation. That is a huge gap I see. I can tell you this, without any, without even thinking about it, is that there are, several industries that have left insurance behind. If you take, for example, your the gig economy of the Ubers and the others, right? So just to start with, the rental cars or the rent me cars, those kind of things. If you have certain technology in there and you actually have, gotten into an accident, not many companies can actually bring all of the data, the telematics, and there's so much information today, but not many companies have trained staff to be able to interpret and process all that to make a good decision on the claims. So that's the big gap, you're seeing, is that the other industries have gone further, further along, and you have insurance that is still playing a catch up. So, how do you get to that? You only get to that if you are able to take away some foundational things. I mean, these kind of things, you have technologies.
Right.
So I think, it's time for the industry to kind of implement these technologies to take away the basic problems, not only for the consumers, but also for people working within the insurance industry. So things are frictionless and they move faster. And that's the way you attract the younger talent.
Right, right. And uh, hearing all this, one of the things that comes to my mind is you've already mentioned a lot of like challenges already, but I'm sure on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis, you see a lot of other challenges creep up, and you constantly have to, kind of revamp and revisit and kind of, change certain things. So, if you can, maybe share some of the high level, some challenges that you or this industry faces, and how do we fix it?
So as an entrepreneur, I would probably go back to the consumer I'm serving. And that's the insurance company. And I have to go back to their problems. It's not easy. I cannot just blame it on the insurance company and say, oh, they're so slow. They just don't know how to work with the insuretechs. I would say it's a problem. We're trying to get married. We're trying to understand each other, and it takes time. It takes time for both companies to kind of come to the same ground. Especially for insurtechs like us, it's very important to understand this is a very regulated industry. You cannot just do what you want. You will be in court. The adjuster, whatever they put in those notes, they will be held accountable. If the case goes into court, all those things get pulled out. Everything will be looked at because it's a legal contract. So I think any company that's coming in, including the underwriting as well, you can't just raise the rates. It's the rates are regulated in certain, for certain types of insurance. It's regulated, but without that you can't perform. My kids can't go to school because the school is covered by liability insurance. You can't work in a company because your company covers you with workers compensation. So everything that we do is impacting me as a consumer and me as an insurtech as well. So if we want to kind of level set this, we have to make sure that we understand each other's problems. And I think that's the key. The industry is facing quite a bit of things. Like the first thing is the skills gap, and that's huge because you don't see many youngsters really coming into and really wanting to join the industry. And that's, that's I guess an ongoing problem is, it is an ongoing problem, but it has to be fixed in numerous other ways. You have to excite, the industry has to implement some new technologies so they excite people around. The second thing is, I think the industry has just started opening up to other industries. So insurance is not siloed anymore. You buy a product, I want to be covered by warranty. So you go back to the manufacturers, you go back to the people that are producing that product or service. So your insurance is, based on that. It has to be closely aligned with that. And I think that's a problem today. There is a, you know, it's a, I will leave it at that. It's like, I think that needs to happen. That
Exactly.
partnership needs to happen, whether it is, companies selling products or services. If they can start thinking about what insurance is really good at, they're very good at, I would say, determining the risk, but they're not good at, understanding what is that product. I'm a startup. I'm also covered by liability insurance. I'm also covered by directors and officers. I'm also covered by so many things, so many other things that I need to have as a startup.
Right.
The question is, it would be nice for insurance companies to understand the different kind of products and services at each consumer level. And I think that's happening. That's beginning to happen. And especially you see this with cars. When you're buying a car, you sometimes are getting your car insurance right there. Tesla is basically covering their own insurance now, so they're getting into this. So I think we would want to see more of these. The third thing is the rising expenses and severity, and
Mhm.
this is happening because of advanced technologies. It's not the same when you have a Toyota that gets into an accident versus a Tesla that gets into an accident. They're not the same severity. It's more severe, it's more expensive to fix a Tesla car and than a traditional Toyota car or a Honda car. So the severity is rising in terms of technologies, advanced technologies like this, and also natural disasters, which you cannot do anything about. So there are these problems, but I think it's insurtechs like us are coming up, and this is where we have a lot of opportunities to work with the industry.
Got it. Got it. Well put. And so now you've also mentioned, right, the evolution that is going on, and it has to evolve. Any technology, even from a product perspective, it has to evolve. So where do you see what's the future like, from Shri's perspective, how she sees this? Where do we see this going?
I would want to see more of those collaborative products. I'm very excited about that. If you are selling an IoT product, I want to see insurance embedded with that. So I want to see more of embedded insurance. I also want to see it to where insurance is is becoming more of your advisor. They're not just coming to me to sell an insurance, to renew the insurance, or when there is a claim to fight with me for the payment, but they're also with me in my journey. If I'm a insurtech buying insurance, I want them to come to me and say, hey, do you require, if you do all these steps, you will not probably get into bankruptcy. If you do all these things, you probably can prevent some of your directors going online and saying things that you're not supposed to say.
Right.
So, how do you prevent liability? How do you prevent a loss? And I think they have a huge part to play in that, in terms of marketing to consumers, marketing to brokers, marketing to agents, and educating. So, that education can only happen if they collaborate with the companies, with the industries that they are serving. So I want to see more collaborative insurance. I don't know if there's a term like that, but that's where I'm excited. That's what I'm excited about. And I think cyber is one area where that probably is going to happen a lot more faster, because cyber is actually a coverage today that is offered as part of a business policy.
Okay.
And for that to happen, I think the industry needs to understand a lot more than just resolving a claim, because resolving a claim means understanding breaches, understanding, a lot more technology. And that's going to, that's going to really, I would say, uh, enhance your relationship with the customer in trying understanding who is my customer. And I think that it all goes back to that. It all goes back to who is your customer. How can you be close to your customer? How can you understand your customer better? And
Mhm.
you cannot do it all. So you have to work with some other partner, with some other company, so that that partnerships and collaboration is where I'm betting insurance will go.
Great, great. Keeping in mind the timeline, maybe last few comments and few questions, but on a side note, I want to know, Shri, yes, the entrepreneur or the CEO, uh, is doing pretty well, but see, Shri, the person who she is, she has a family, she has a lot other things to kind of, and I know, you're not only just focused on your own work or your startup, but at the same time you are into a lot of other causes as well. uh,
Yes.
you know uh, for budding entrepreneurs, for budding enthusiasts, I would love to hear a little bit more about how does that time management, the entire planning work, and what would be your tips that you can maybe share with some of those new entrants or somebody who's already there but is struggling to kind of manage everything.
I don't want to sound like a mom here, but I am a mom, but I think I've understood the terms discipline, so much more practicing it myself. When I used to hear it from my parents, I never used to understand the depth of this word. And now I understand it. I think this is the sole key word that is so important in my life. And I'm not going to say this is going to be the same for you, but as an entrepreneur, I think that discipline is so important. You cannot neglect yourself, you cannot neglect your family, you cannot neglect your extended family, which is your company, and you cannot neglect the product, you cannot neglect your partners, customers, and your investors. So if you have to manage all these, I think discipline is key. It is key. So whatever that is, whatever that moment is, that whatever the thing that you want to do throughout the day, have some discipline. It's so important. It's so important to eat on time. It's so important to have your walks. It's so important to do the things that you believe in. And you know that brings a sense of accountability and responsibility, in terms of running a company, running a family. And I think, there's a lot of parallels you can draw from running a family to running a company. And that's where I rely on. It's there's a lot I learn from running the family and applying that, towards the company. And there's a lot I learn the other way around as well. It's like this. You and me know this. It's with kids, you can't tell them what to do. You can only influence
True.
them, because they don't
Yeah.
learn from what you say, they learn from what you do. So
Right.
that's what I practice and preach. It's so important to be disciplined. I think that's key, and that's important. And it's also important to be with yourself. Don't always think that it's being lonely. No, it's not. I'm very happy with my company. If you put me with myself for some time, I'm very happy by myself. um, and that's key to understand why. It's not because I don't like social relate. I love it. I love to have people over, I love to cook, I love to do that. But there's in those quiet moments, when I'm with myself, is the time when I plan what is the most important thing, what am I going to focus on. It's those times when I develop that kind of focus that the Indian mythology stories have always talked about. so,
Right.
so that focus comes from discipline, that focus comes from perseverance, that focus also comes from being with yourself. It's very important. These are three things that are key to me. How you get this is not important. You can get it. You can get it from jumping on a treadmill and running. You can get it from anywhere. You can just get it from running for a cause. And I get it from being in nature. I get it from being with, being in redwoods. I love redwoods, and it's like every time I go there, I tell my husband I'm back home, because that's where I feel home. And
Right.
I don't know what it is, but that's where I draw. I go there, I come back very creative. Things that take me 2 hours takes me like 5 minutes. So I think you need to find what that is for you. I cannot advise, people on that, but I do say, whatever that path is, that path has to be a selfless path. That's more important. Entrepreneurship is all about that. It's all about being selfless. And it's not just about making wealth. It's about growing as a person. And that's, for me, that's the most important takeaway.
Great. Uh, great insights, Shri. One of the most important questions, and I saw that a couple of times in the chat as well. How do we get in touch with Shri? We've discussed everything, we've shared all the details, but if somebody wants to, like Preeti wants to definitely get in touch with you, how can she or how can anybody get in touch with you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. I just go by Shri Ramaswamy and search by Charlee.ai. You will find me. Definitely, LinkedIn is a place I hang out quite a bit. And, even in my quiet times, I'm there. I'm trying to figure out what people are saying. Like I said, it all goes back to why we started Charlee.ai. It's very important for me to understand what everybody's saying and how people are thinking. And so that goes back to staying in touch on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is critical for me. And I can be found on, I guess my email is Sri_Ramaswamy@Charlee.ai. So you can find me there. You can go to my website, Charlee.ai, and find me there as well. The email is listed there as well. And right now Twitter is more my personal thing. And if you want to follow my causes, I say follow me on Twitter as well.
Right.
That's Ramaswamy_Shri. That's where you come to know what I really, really believe in, my personal beliefs and my personal fight.
Right. And that's why, in the initial part of the conversation, I did mention, it's not easy being, aware of what's happening in your community and following that at the same time running a company, running a family. And I would say, at the very end, kudos to your family as well as special mention to your spouse, because I am sure, uh, it takes an army to run a company for sure, and with a family, with especially being in this country, it is added responsibilities and whatnot. So kudos to your spouse as well, and I'm sure there's a lot of great thing, amazing things in the future that Charlee.ai will bring in, and I'm really excited to see the kind of journey you've led. And this is like normally I generally I use that this is just the beginning. I've been following your transition from Infolytics to the Charlie, and the way you've been doing it even on LinkedIn. And yes, anybody who wants to connect, I think LinkedIn would be the best, because I see a lot of activity on LinkedIn, and I think LinkedIn is one of the best places for any kind of a person who is hungry about technology to hang out, because you get to see a lot of amazing stuff being done on LinkedIn, shared by people who have really achieved a lot of success. But also, you also learn from some of the failures, because most of the entrepreneurs, just like Shri, they don't shy away from sharing even their failures as well, and some of the things that can help bring better enhancements or betterments to anybody else. So at the end of it, all I can say is, Shri, thank you so much for this time. I am really, really humbled to have you as one of the speakers on the podcast, and I'm glad that a lot of insights were shared, and I'm sure this is just the beginning. We will definitely do a few more in the near future, where I would love to see what new enhancements, new advancements Charlie.ai has to share. So Before we end, anything else you would love to say or share with all the
No,
people?
I was going to say that if you wanted, we should probably have a day session on failures. I can talk I can talk about the list of failures that we've been through. But I'm a believer. I'm very very positive by nature, and I'm always believer in moving on, learning and moving on. My grandpa told me this, that it's the day you stop learning will be in your grave. That is what I carry with me in my heart. So I turn all these into learnings every day. I'm like, okay, it's a learning, and move on. So I think failures are important. It's very
Yeah,
important because it gives you a true perspective of what you really want. What is it that you really want to focus on? And it helps you stay, I would say, stay on the momentum, and stay abreast with everything that's happening. So it's important. And my parting thoughts are, thank you so much. I think this is a podcast, this is a medium that many entrepreneurs like myself would love to kind of have, and come in frequently as well. So I will definitely pass this on to many others that would be interested to come on your show.
that'll be awesome. All right, guys. So that was Shri Ramaswamy from Charlie.ai. We will have another amazing speaker next week. We will continue this. If you have any kind of questions for Shri, you know where to reach her, and do visit her website, Charlie.ai. And if you have any kind of comments, suggestions, anything that you want to pass along, feel free to do that. You know where to reach out to me as well. And do follow the Twitter handle. Yes, of course, I also have a lot of other things that happen on my Twitter handle, but at the same time, you could connect with me both on LinkedIn as well as Twitter. All right, looking forward to the next one, and thank you once again, and see you guys. Be safe and stay healthy. Bye now.